Pretty crazy day we're having in the stock market, am I right? Well, that actually leaves us with a pretty good opportunity to talk about a stock that's been on my radar for a while, but the numbers don't really make a whole lot of sense. But since a lot of other stocks that don't make a lot of sense are doing very well, I think this one will be very fitting. Now, you already saw the title, so it should come as no surprise, but the company that we're going to be taking a look at today is GoodRX. Hey everyone, and thanks for joining me today. My name's Matt, and before we get started here, I just need to say, not advice, don't take this as advice. If you need advice, speak to a financial advisor. They'll be able to assist you, but do not make any investment decisions based solely on what I say here. Also, remember guys, for the donations here, if you like the video, I'll donate 5 cents, and if you subscribe, I'll donate 10 cents. We'll tally it up at the end of the year, and all that money is going to go to a charity. So if you haven't already, or if you don't mind hitting the like button for your donation and subscribe as well, I'll pop up the numbers so you can see how that's been going for us so far since we started this. Now, before we really move on with GoodRX, I do want to just kind of hit on GameStop here for a second. I'm not really going to talk about it at all. Yesterday, I was so dumbfounded by what was going on. I had like a whole video lined up that I was going to publish for all of you to kind of see my thoughts on it, but I was more or less of a rant. So leave a comment below if you want me to actually go ahead and publish that video. If you're curious about my thoughts, one of the big things I was going to disclose in that is the finance company that I work for, just so that way you guys can understand how I started to develop my investment philosophy, because I think that'll give a lot of context to why I pick the companies I do and why I invest the way I do. So let me know if any of that sounds interesting. I'll gladly publish that video for all of you. All right, with the intro out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about GoodRX. So if you're not familiar with GoodRX, they are essentially like Honey, that like money saving thing that you have like a Google Chrome plugin for when it comes to prescription medications. So they're not an insurance company, but they essentially help people find prescription medications at a cheaper price by aggregating a bunch of data between multiple pharmacies in your area. It has saved Americans a ton of money because some prescriptions can be very expensive. And actually, Jim Cramer frequently gives an example of how GoodRx saves him over $50,000 a year. I think he has to take a medication that his insurance doesn't cover. It's like $5,000 or $6,000 a month. And through GoodRx, he can get it for $1,000 a month. Still stupid expensive, but significantly better than what he was previously paying. So far, they've actually helped Americans save a combined total of around $24 billion through their discount savings program. So obviously, a lot of Americans utilize this program because it does give us access to cheaper medication, especially with a lot of Americans being either self-employed or not employed, or just insurance not covering that medication. Now, for GoodRx, I did do the numbers for them, but I want to reiterate, these numbers are pretty terrible, like really bad. So don't expect much for this. And since they really don't have a competitor, because they don't really compete with an insurance company because they're not an insurance provider, and they don't really compete with pharmacies because they're not a pharmacy either. They just help people get the discounts. So I couldn't really think of anybody to compare them to. And again, these numbers are more or less just because it's tradition for me to do them, but just keep in mind, they don't make sense at all. All right, so as we could see here, PE ratio, probably the highest we have ever seen. It might be higher than Tesla's or when Tesla's hit its peak. I'm not sure. But 1,573.63 is just absolutely absurd. Now, it's worth noting this is a relatively new company. I know they've been around for at least 10 years, maybe longer, but they haven't even been public for a full year yet. So this is a really new company to the markets. The price to earnings growth ratio still not giving us that much optimism when it comes to is this actually a good value investment? Because as we could see, that is 29.25, and as I mentioned last week, we try to shoot for those around 1, if not less. But the revenue growth has been pretty substantial for this company, which is good for me to see, as always, 55.95% year over year. And part of the reason why I also like to see that being higher, and I do actually expect this revenue growth to be higher for this company, is because the business they run is not that expensive to operate. Yeah, having an app development team, research, development, partnerships, all of that is costly, but they're not really creating like a car, or they don't have very high overhead. So I really do think this company should be having a higher revenue growth than what we would see with maybe more traditional companies or software companies. EBITDA growth also headed in the right direction here with 77.63. So obviously they're doing what they can to increase their profitability, and they are a profitable company so far. Now you might see a blank box there, and no, I didn't forget to fill that in. I just wanted to save that one for the end and didn't want to give it away too quickly, because the quick ratio, as always, is a ratio that I like to talk about here, and this is the highest quick ratio that I have ever seen. 19.45 is even higher than Shopify. I didn't know if we could ever top Shopify, but GoodRX certainly has. And as I was saying earlier, when it comes to their kind of expenses, this is a cheap company to run, so I think it's a really good thing that they do have the cash on hand, and hopefully they'll be able to use that for more business opportunities in the future, and we'll touch on that there in a moment. But like I said, these numbers here aren't that great, so I want to talk to you about what I actually like about this company. So I do want to start off by addressing the Amazon issue. Amazon really seems to be a company a lot of people have been seeing as threats recently, and similarly to CVS, I really do not see Amazon being a threat to GoodRx for a few reasons. So as I mentioned, the way GoodRx works is they basically aggregate a bunch of data in your area to help the consumer find the best or cheapest option available for them to pick up a prescription, usually if they don't have insurance. Now, one of the ways that GoodRx makes money is through ads. I couldn't really find clarity in what they meant by ads, but what I'm assuming that means is pharmacies can put on the GoodRx app, or they could pay to have their price listed on the GoodRx app, so that way consumers can hopefully find that that pharmacy has the cheapest option available for them for their prescription. The other way they make money is when a customer actually decides to use that GoodRx code to get the hopefully cheaper option for their prescription, GoodRx receives a commission from that sale through the pharmacy, not the drug maker. So the incentive here is for, let's take Walmart's pharmacy as an example. They want GoodRx they want to be able to advertise on GoodRx's platform, because that will hopefully make people convert from going to Walgreens as an example to Walmart. And if you've noticed, for the most part, I haven't seen a Walmart that has a drive-through pharmacy. So you have to go into the store. So they are able to justify paying that commission, even if it means they'll be at a net loss when they sell the prescription, because they're hoping that you'll say, oh, well, I'm at Walmart, I'll just do my grocery shopping instead. Or, hey, I need a new TV, so let me go get my, I don't know, back pain medicine and a new TV or something like that. So the incentive is to really bring people into stores. And that's where I think this leaves Amazon at two disadvantages. First off is if Amazon were to have like a discount card that you can use at other pharmacies, and if they were to send somebody to Walmart, they'd essentially be taking business away from themselves, which is something they've worked for so long to be able to hold on to so much business. So I don't think they'd really be advertising for you to go to Walmart instead of Amazon, just because that could mean that they might lose more and more business in the long run. Also, Amazon is operating this more of a pharmacy as opposed to the discount card. So they essentially want to be like a virtual CVS or Walgreens. The problem with that is right now only 5% of prescriptions are actually sent through mail based on however many are picked up. I'm not sure where they got that number from. But 5% is a very small amount, and because it raises a lot of issues. First thing is some drugs actually need to be kept at a certain temperature, and if they start exceeding temperatures in a hot day in a mailbox, then it can actually diminish the quality or potency, something like that, of the actual prescription itself. The other problem with that is what happens if it gets stolen, like many Amazon packages do. You know, I personally take something for ADD every month, and if I were to have Amazon send that to me and somebody stole my package, because that's a controlled substance, that is not easy to get refilled because somebody stole it, I can basically have to sit on the sidelines for a month. And a month without, the stuff that keeps me focused would be pretty detrimental towards my business. So I know personally, and again, with CVS being within 3 or 5 miles within the majority of Americans, I just don't necessarily think that this delivery system, or at least Amazon's 2-day shipping for your prescription medications, is really going to be the most viable option. Now, I did see somebody make the argument, well, what about Amazon lockers? Same thing. If I'm already going out in public to go pick up my prescription, I'll just go to the pharmacy itself instead of trying to find one of those Amazon lockers, set up a drop-off time when I could pick it up and all that good stuff. So I actually really don't see Amazon as a huge threat to this company by any means. The other argument a lot of people will say is, what about Joe Biden being in office because he has plans for making more affordable healthcare? Well, GoodRx was around when Obama was in office as well, and we had Obamacare. And GoodRx still did very well during that time. So I don't really see the fact that we had a change in president having really any influence on this company either. Maybe it will in the long run, but at least for the next few years, I don't actually see that being a threat to GoodRx's business operations. GoodRx also now has a subscription service, which admittedly I don't really know that much about, but it's a recurring source of revenue. They've had a lot of people sign up for it already, and that's just something that gets me excited. It's like $6 a month for an individual or $10 a month for a family up to 6 people. So again, something I like to see because dependency on ads is okay, and that commission is again okay for revenue, but something consistent and steady is great for me to see. The last thing that I really like about GoodRx, or the direction that they're also heading in, is they are adding a telemedicine branch to their system. So essentially what they are now offering is for physicians or doctors or specialists to offer their services through GoodRx and can connect people with hopefully a cheaper option of a traditional doctor's visit. So they say that should only start at around $20 a visit. I don't know the details of what that entails or kind of what level that would be, but just for comparison, in the United States, if you don't have health insurance, usually you can expect to pay around $150 per doctor's visit. And now that's not anything like an emergency, that's just like a general doctor's visit. Maybe if you're sick, need some medication, whatever. So $20 is going to be a very cheap option, and I think something a lot of people will start to utilize. I think the other thing that this really plays on to well with is the fact of kind of why I like Smile Direct Club, because I think like we're starting to see more and more of these changes in the medical practice industry, I guess we can call it, where there really are starting to be more affordable solutions available to us. And I think GoodRx is one of the leaders in that space, along with other companies, even like CVS or Smile Direct Club. So as we look for these cheaper options, GoodRx is absolutely leading the pack in that direction, from starting with just cheaper medication options to now even having cheaper doctor's visits. So, and it's always a win-win too, because with the doctors, instead of sitting there not making any money that day, maybe they won't make as much, but at least it lets them stay busy and they're helping out people in a good cause. So I think that these companies, CVS, Smile Direct Club, and GoodRx, are all really being innovators in a space that, as I've said before, has remained relatively stagnant for a very long time period. And as medical costs grows as a concern for many citizens, I think that they have a huge opportunity up front. So while the numbers don't make a whole lot of sense right now, I think with some of these advancements they're making in their platform, specifically with this telemedicine thing, can really help justify purchasing it what seems like at a high price right now, but could be a very valued investment in the future. I think I worded that absolutely terribly, but I hope you understand kind of what I'm getting at with that. So I'm excited to see the way this company grows, and it is one that I've added to the portfolio. But as usual, remember, this might be something worth just adding to a watch list. Not saying you need to go out and buy because that's advice, and we don't give advice on this channel, but I think it could be a very exciting stock, and it's still relatively new to the public market. So maybe give it some time, do your own research, but it's one that I'm certainly excited about. So I'll get all that pulled up. I don't even really want to look at the portfolio today because with trading halting and stocks going crazy, I don't even know what to expect. So let me pull that up and I'll be right back with you. Well, that's not the pleasant surprise I was expecting. I thought this portfolio might be down today, but it's actually doing very well today I'm not going to question it. Our portfolio is doing really well. Take that into consideration. But as you can see here for GoodRx, I bought it yesterday. Bought 100 shares of it, and I think it was around 100. No. So I bought GoodRx yesterday. Bought about 100 shares of it. It was trading around $50.60, give or take. Right now, it clocked in just over $52 a share, hence our $200 gain, which is crazy to see. So it's doing pretty well for us in this portfolio. Now, not that long ago, this stock did drop significantly, but that was due to the Amazon news that came out about, doing whatever Amazon's doing. So I should have bought it back then when it took that hit. But again, I definitely see this as a very long-term investment. Now, obviously, you are going to have to take into consideration some political factors because there is a chance that this company can be hurt by political factors. And that's not something I usually bring up in stocks that I invest in, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. I think that would be at least 3 to 5 years away from that actually having a significant influence on this company. And I think we've now reached the part in this portfolio where I just don't really need to go through all of them because that would take forever. So just to breeze through some highlights. Salesforce is up $260. That's cool. Mercado Libre, a little bit of a hit. CVS up. That's cool. Fubo's making a comeback, guys. We might actually be able to see our money back from that one, which is good to see. Now, what has me confused here is BlackBerry. Now, I know BlackBerry was in the news talks about like AMC, GameStop, all of those stocks this week, so I think it makes sense that it rallied a little bit, but bear in mind, I didn't buy it for the reasons that a lot of people are talking about. I think BlackBerry is very much making a comeback, and it's something that I'm excited to see, especially with some of the strategic partnerships that they've made recently. But I'm not buying it because of the hype. And that's why I talked about it weeks ago, because I talked about this stock before it was all hype. So remember that. I don't buy these stocks based on what everybody else is saying. I buy them based on my own research. But hey, I'll take the almost $7,000 gain. That is absolutely incredible. You guys remember when it was down like $2,000? Anyway, some other ones. Smile Direct Club's making a little bit of a rally. Pinterest doing its own thing. That one's just on its own time. I don't know what's going on there. Etsy. I love this fight here between Etsy and ChargePoint because they seem to be such neck-and-neck competitors with the performance in this portfolio. Nonetheless, though, each of them are up, almost $3,000. The other one's up almost $3,500. So both of those are doing pretty well. As I said last week, this portfolio is really making a turnaround from where it started. So that's something I'm happy to see. And I do, again, anticipate more volatility inside this portfolio, at least for the next few months, or maybe at least until the end of this quarter. So with all of that said, I hope you enjoyed this video today. A little bit different than what I typically do, and sorry if it sounds like I'm rushed. Once again, Matt's busy, but let me know if you have any questions for me about GoodRX. Let me know your thoughts and feedback about this company, or if it's one that you hold on to. And remember, leave a comment below if you do want to hear kind of my thought process with what's going on with GameStop, because that's just ridiculous. There's no way to really explain it, but I'd also give you some info about myself and who I used to work for if you do want to see that video. Also, like if you haven't, because remember that's a 5-cent donation. Subscribe if you haven't already too, because that's a 10-cent donation. And that's about all I have to say. So let me stop talking here because I'm starting to get raspy. I don't know why. Anyway, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to watch this video. You could be anywhere in the world, but you're right here with me, and I really appreciate that. But I'm going to let you go ahead, enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you next time.